And in store today, we do have 40 life lessons. That is going to be a reaction to a video from Mark Manson, someone who I actually talk about quite a lot on this channel, but I did actually want to try to give him his flowers by trying to do a reaction to a video that he has done. And so I am trying to get that one set up and organized right now. But as you can see, we do have the channel, It Be What It Be podcast. Make sure to follow, subscribe, what have you, depending on the platform. And I am also going to get into this 40 Hearth, this video right now that I've shown you the YouTube channel. So now let's see here. I always have this thing where it's just, I have to do a little bit more work to get it to click through. But in any case.
Here he is now.
Hi,
and
just
of
trying
course,
to make sense of all this data.
Just get Sasvaya.
Sasvaya? No!
there is an
Today
ad,
is my.
as you can see, we have Mark Manson over here with 2.74 million subscribers, 3 million views on this. He has definitely done extremely well in his life. I can imagine the amount of money that he has. And we have also over here 189K views. I'm just going to try to see if I can remove that one just over there. But 189K likes on this video. I thought that this video was pretty worthwhile. And it's the whole idea about if someone could look back, right? What is it that they could do in their earlier years, essentially? So I definitely think that there's a lot that I would have loved to have told myself when I was younger. That's a lot of what this channel is about. I also think that in a lot of ways, it would have to be me to do it because there's a particular way that I would want certain arguments to be formed, A, as well as B, that I would want, that I think that I could be persuaded, but also that would be true to my values as well. And so I certainly think that there's a lot that someone can learn from somebody else. But at the end of the, and certainly, of course, I hope that this is able to reach other people and be able to help them in that regard. But at the same time, I also think that it's really important to be able to see for oneself what it is that you would say to your younger self. And so I really like the concept of this, very much so in alignment of the channel. And I'm going to give Mark Manson his flowers while also giving my commentary on top. So let's see what we have over here.
40th birthday. Here are all the things that I know at 40 that I wish I knew at 20. Starting with number 1, your relationship with others is a direct reflection of your relationship with yourself. If you treat yourself poorly, then you will unconsciously seek out and tolerate others who treat you poorly as well. If you treat yourself with dignity and respect, then you will only tolerate others who treat you with dignity and respect too. Number 2,
I like that essentially, yeah, your relationship with yourself is a reflection of your relationship, is going to be reflected in your relationship with others. So there is a certain level of, yeah, like absolutely respecting yourself. And even I noticed today that Mark Manson's episode with Chris Williamson, his third one, got released. His third appearance on Chris Williamson's podcast. And a lot of what he says is just about being able to filter people out. It's a particular skill to be able to know, when do I want this person to be in my life or not, particularly depending on the extent to which that person is disrespectful towards you and being an ASSHOLE towards you, if you will, which I'm not currently monetized, but I also am too small of a channel at this point where I would be comfortable saying such a word, but maybe he'll say it anyway and we'll see. But anywho.
Respect, then you will only tolerate others who treat you with dignity and respect too. Number 2, the only way to feel better about yourself is to do things worth feeling good about. Respect is earned, not given. Number 3.
So I don't know. I I think that there's a lot of merit there, like go to the gym, eat healthy, work on your projects, and do what it is that you said that you were going to do, maintain your promises, and so on and so forth. I definitely do think that I do feel pretty good when I am making these videos, even though as of right now, there's not a lot of traction in terms of the audience, the live stream, to be quite transparent. And this is a channel that I have really started to work on a lot this year, even though technically I got it started last year. But I'm getting a lot more in terms of the shorts, but at the end of the day, and even that, it still is worthwhile to feel good about. I do think in terms of making sure that I'm showing up and doing that project that I said that I was going to work on. And I've worked on a number of different projects throughout my life. I've done events when I was younger, and running events for relatively niche subject matter, if you will. I'll just put it that way, because I don't want to be too transparent. Of course, I'm trying to protect my identity. So, he's saying it's the only way to feel better. I mean, that much I think is, I don't know if I would say hyperbolic, but maybe it's not the only way. But nonetheless, I do think that there's a lot of merit to that.
The only failure is not trying. The only rejection is not asking. The only mistake is not risking.
Just on that, the only failure is not trying. I mean, someone can really fail if they do try as well. Certainly, there's the whole you regret more of what it is that you haven't done than what it is that you have done. Certainly, there is that. And I do think that there's a lot of merit to that by all means. But at the same time, it is possible to fail, right? The only rejection is not asking. I do think that you get rejected, right? If you want to go out on a date with somebody, of course, he is more of a dating expert in that regard, and kudos to him for that. He's certainly had a very successful life. I certainly think that there is a lot that's very admirable about what it is that he's done. I do think that not risking anything, for sure. This idea, again, it goes back to we regret more what it is that we didn't do than what it is that we did do. I also don't want that to be communicated as a way to justify just doing whatever whenever. I definitely do think that there's calculated risk by all means, right? But at the same time, I do think that there is some merit to going out, like being able to say that there was a story to your life, as opposed to we've waited all of this time. And I know that he said that he's gotten so many emails from some people who've waited for the perfect time to do what have you, and then they just waited X amount of years, and then they could have had all of that time. So in any case,
Anything. Success and failure are fuzzy concepts that only exist in your mind before you do something, not after. After the fact, everything will be a mixture of both. The only real failure is doing nothing. Number 4, no.
so yeah, I heard him also on the Chris Williamson podcast earlier today talking about how, well, even Chris Williamson was more so the one that was bringing it up. I didn't finish that podcast, but Chris Williamson was the one that was more so bringing it up in terms of we have a culture in the West that very much so holds success in very high regard. And so what was a success? What wasn't a success? Who defines that? I also like Psych Hacks, Dr. Ryan Teraband, talking about how success ought to be defined differently for different people. And I do think that that's very true as well, that success for one person isn't the same as other people. Definitely in a lot of ways, I'd say Mark Manson is a success. He got a lot of money at a younger age. In a lot of ways, when he's writing The Subtle Art of Not, you know, that I'm thinking to myself as a 27-year-old when I was, what I didn't even have the confidence necessarily to be able to really think that I knew sufficiently enough to be able to be so concrete on the life advice that I was giving. I definitely think I'm in a better place to do that now that I'm in my 30s, but not so much when I was in my 20s. That being said, another one that I think is very classic at this point, no one is coming to save you. That this is it. This is as good as it gets. Even Dr. Ryan Turbin had a video on that one recently. I know that there's a number of different content creators who talk about that. No one is coming to, yeah, it's not like some relationship is going to save you or what have you, or someone's going to come and they're going to like give you the deal that, well, they give you the deal that has a lot of zeros on it. Someone could do that, but at the end of the day, it has to be up to you. I like that Mark Manson said that it may not be your fault, but it's your responsibility.
One is coming to save you. No single thing will solve all of your problems. No goal, no achievement, no relationship. No one will ever fix you. You will always feel mildly inadequate and somewhat dissatisfied with your life. Nothing is wrong with you for feeling this way. On the contrary, it might be the most normal thing about you. Number 5.
And I guess so, yeah, that it might be the most normal thing about you. Yeah, absolutely. That everything always feels a little bit more SHIT than it actually is. I know that for myself too. I definitely do have a propensity, like a negativity bias. So I do know that about myself, but I'm going to try to speed ZZ through these a bit faster now.
Be the partner you want to have. If you want a healthy and fit partner, then be healthy and fit yourself. If you want a loyal and trustworthy partner, then be loyal and trustworthy yourself. To put it another way, would you date you? If not, then that's a fucking problem. Number 6.
And there you go. There you go. Now here's a swear word. So I hope that doesn't affect my video too badly, but I like that. Like, there's like, don't be a hypocrite in that regard, but also be the person that you'd want to date. I think that that's just very self-explanatory in and of itself. And I've often thought to myself, yeah, if I want someone who has a certain level of fitness, I ought to be able to deliver that to the same extent myself, right? So
Most valuable things in life compound over a long period of time. I'm talking about health, wealth, knowledge, confidence, relationships.
yeah, I certainly would agree with a lot of that. There's not necessarily a lot of the shortcut, but also at the same time, it's like at some point I do think it's necessary to pull the trigger, which is also the whole like don't necessarily always wait for the right time. That sometimes you just gotta just do it, essentially.
These things will frustrate you when you're young because they are slow. But if you start building them from a young age and you don't stop, by the time you're in your 30s and 40s, you will have an incredible life. Number 7, the most sexy and exciting things in life are the opposite. They start out extremely fun, but then have intense diminishing returns. When you're young, these things distract you and occupy a lot of your time and attention. This applies to social media, casual sex, drugs and alcohol, video games, gambling, vacations, and blowjobs. The first time is incredible. The second time is almost as good, but then it's all downhill from there. Well, except for the blowjobs. Number 8, if you're not...
Yeah, like I don't necessarily know that I would agree with like all of that per se, but yeah, definitely you could imagine doing some people manage to drink every day. I can't. Although what I drink isn't really like I've been more into like beer in that regard. And even then I'm trying to rethink whether or not it's worthwhile for me to even continue to go at a certain pace because there's a lot that I really want to try to get out of my life as I'm getting older. And I know that in the 30s for sure that noticing the impact of compounding. So there's a lot of people that said that in terms of the advice to, let's say in particular, like young men, but I think it could happen to anybody necessarily. Use your 20s to be able to build up so that then in your 30s and 40s, yeah, you're having that amazing life, right? So for example, there's an argument to be made about don't go partying as much. Although frankly, what I do think is somewhat of a rebuttal to that, right? There's in a lot of ways, there's only the time in the 20s to be able to really do that in a way, and a lot of that has to do with demographic because if someone is not no longer in their 20s, they're just no longer in the demographic that does that. And so it makes it tougher to, someone can look really out of place, and that can make it tougher to get results, essentially. So that being said,
Not turning down things.
Locked in a stare down with
and
Mother
of
Nature. Some wilt,
here I am
but
with
others
another
push forward.
the non-YouTube premium,
They
trying to
are
work
the real
on
ones, and they drink a
being able
real
to.
good light beer.
Of
Slim
course,
and
that's
Clear
beer
2.0. Real ones know.
commercial.
Things that excite you, then you're not focused enough on something that matters. Our world is overflowing with stimulation and opportunity. If you aren't struggling to turn down options, then you haven't correctly prioritized what matters to you. Number 9, taking
And I think that
responsibility
that's
for all of
also- so that he talks about values a lot. He talks about, like, well, let me rephrase. Well, okay. He said that in the subtle art of not giving a you know what, that values was a big part of that. In the Values Solved podcast, he talks a lot about how there are certain values that someone may have, which would mean that they have to give up other values, essentially. And I think that that makes sense. That there's only so much time, so someone's not going to be able to do everything that they want to do, right? So there's values. There's different values, and what's really going to show what it is that you value is based off of your actions, essentially. That's one of the reasons why I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe I don't want to continue to drink as much if it's going to have an impact on my ability to do what else I set out for myself to do. Some of which that is certainly I want to be more regular on doing this content creation. I now have a full-time job. I want to be going back to being regular, to being at the gym as well. On top of that, there's language learning that I want to do, to give and even a book that I fell behind on. So those are some, I'll say it's the Robert Greene Daily Laws. So those are some of the different to-dos that I want to be able to do, but there's only so much time to do it all. So in that case,
of your problems alleviates more suffering than it creates. Most people assume that if you take responsibility for all the pain in your life, then you will just feel worse about it. But the opposite is actually true. The more responsibility you take, the more you empower yourself to actually do something about that pain. That's because, number 10, you give
so ish. But I guess I think, you know what, let's just do these two together, because that's because, right?
power to who you blame. When you blame someone else for your problems, you are giving them power over you. You are allowing them to define and dictate your happiness and well-being. This is fucking stupid, so don't do it. It's not worth it. Number 11, if you
Okay. Yeah. So to taking responsibility, because otherwise you give power to your blame. You know, not everything is, this is one of the things that I really don't like about this particular point. Not everything is in one's control. There's more that's outside of one's control than what is inside one's control. So yeah, he's talked about, he had another video about what is it that someone could do to basically like ruin their life. And some of it is to believe that nothing will ever change, to blame society, the government, your parents, etc. But there's only so much of an ability for someone to really do to really be able to make decisions independently. I do think that there is certainly, and it's cliche, right? Balance. I do think that there's a certain level of don't just externalize all of the problems and say, oh, it's all someone else's or some other entity's fault. If you take responsibility, then yeah, you empower yourself to be able to do more about it. But sometimes it's just you don't have all the power. You're not the more powerful person in the situation. Sometimes you don't always have a way out in that regard. Some people will avidly disagree with me. It be what it be. I just think that it is possible to still take responsibility while, like, sure, some people, they're living with their parents. How much could they really actually be doing? And how many options do they really have if you're living with your parents and you're relying on that to be able to move forward in your life? Someone has to say you to give you an opportunity in some cases to save you. The people who, is it really your fault that you got laid off that job? Is it really your fault that you may not be able to find it? Some cases, yes, some cases, no. It's definitely more complicated than that, which is also pretty cliche to say. All it is that I'm trying to say is that I don't think it's so straightforward as like everything is in my control and take responsibility for everything. I actually think that there's a lot of arrogance behind that. I think that there's a lot of humility behind, you know what, like, do the best that you can with what it is that you have, with the cards that you have, and what it what power you have available to you. But don't let someone take your power from you as well.
You have to tell someone you're that, then you're not that. A rich man doesn't feel need to show people he's rich. A smart man doesn't feel need to tell people he's smart. A confident person doesn't have to show people that he's confident. He just is. Don't say it, be it. Number 12,
Yeah, I think that's very worthwhile as well. If anything, I'd like let other people define it. But at the same time, I do think that there's a certain level of identity and not having other people assign your identity. So I do think that there is that, and so to what extent is the identity established by other people or not? Say, for example, Mark Manson is an author. Now he's a YouTuber. He didn't necessarily have to say that, but at the same time, if he said that he was a YouTuber and then he had the receipts to back it up, sure, right? Absolutely. He was a nomad at a while. Like, if you're telling your story or to somebody else, to some extent, you do have to tell people who you are. So I think that it's just a combination of both. Like, to an extent, taking control of the narrative, not letting somebody else take control of your own narrative, not letting somebody else tell you who you are. But to an extent, you are also what your actions define you as well. So, speaking of which,
motivation is not the cause of action, but the effect. If you want to feel motivated to do something, take the smallest action towards doing it, then let the momentum carry you forward. Number 13.
So motivation is just one more time.
Love is not the cause.
Motivation is not the cause of action, but the effect. Yeah. He says a lot of that as well, even in the productivity, which he tied a lot of it to emotion, essentially. And it's this whole idea of like, just get started, just do something. I think it can be both. I definitely think motivation is very important, but I do find, yeah, once I'm sitting down and I've set up the studio and now I actually have a momentum going and I'm actually live streaming in the moment, I do find that I am doing a lot more of what it is that I would be wanting to do, and that it's a lot more motivating to try to continue to do it. So, nonetheless,
is not towards doing it, but the effect. Momentum carry you forward. Number 13. Love is not the cause of commitment, but the effect. You don't wait until you have a perfect relationship to commit to a person. You commit to the person in order to create the perfect relationship. 14.
I think that that's very interesting. I think that I certainly, to an extent, like, someone's not going to come 100% pre-assembled and that the relationship is going to take some work. Some people say that it doesn't take work. When it comes to some of the dating advice, I just don't think that like what works for A works for B all the time, right? I do think something like be the person, would you date you? Be the person that like you want to date. I do think that there's a lot there that can be very generalized, but then yeah, I also do think that yeah, what works for person A doesn't necessarily work for person B either. In terms of, to some extent, there's a lot of self-discovery that has to go in that.
Passion is not the cause of good work, but the effect. You don't wait until you find something you love doing. You learn to do something well, and the process of developing competency and agency then causes you to become passionate about it. Where's my paint thinner?
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to keep this off the screen. But yeah, here we go with the ad from Sydney Sweeney. Nonetheless, I think that that's very interesting as well in terms of, yeah, he just has a lot to say in terms of that the motivation isn't the cause of action. Action is the cause of motivation. You get passionate while you get good at doing whatever it may be. I don't know. To some extent, it depends on, I suppose, what it is. You're not going to be able to be good at everything. Like Mark Manson isn't great at sports, for example, as is self-proclaimed. Words straight from his own mouth. So, I don't know, right? I don't really know in that regard. I think that there's a lot of merit to that. As you get better at it, then one gets more passionate at it. I do think that there's a lot of merit to it, but at the same time, I do think that there could be getting interested in whatever it may be and then just hitting it off right away. So I guess there's this Sydney.
Hello, you dirty little boys. Are you interested in my body? Wash? Well, you can't have it.
I'm going
Because
to skip this.
Number 15, the person you marry is the person you fight with. The house you buy is the house you repair. The dream job you take is the job you stress over. Everything comes with an inherent sacrifice to it. Whatever makes us feel good will inevitably also make us feel bad. Number 16, a happy life is not a life without.
That there is a lot of truth to that. It's like every single job that I would have had would have been the job that I would have stressed over. Similarly with the relationship, the house or the apartment or what have you. So I think that there's a lot of merit to that, for sure. And yeah, I think that that's just pretty good in and of itself. I'll keep going.
Without stress, it's a life of meaningful stress. Number 17, don't view exercise as an exchange for something. You don't.
I totally missed that one. A happy life is not a life without stress. It's a life of meaningful stress. I've heard him say, and I don't know if it was also Chris Williamson as well, but having better problems. It probably was Mark Manson. It's not that you're going to have a problem. It's about having better problems. So say, for example, there's a time when with one of the jobs that I was doing, we were organizing more or less different events. When we got different events, that it's one problem to try to fill up the calendar. It's another problem once we filled up the calendar, then to try to find staff to actually go and facilitate those events. That was a whole nother problem. And so in a scenario like that, I definitely found that to be pretty interesting about like the whole idea about having better problems, essentially. And so as a byproduct of that, yeah, absolutely.
Meaningful stress. Number 17, don't view exercise as an exchange for something. You don't work out to lose a few pounds or earn that hamburger and ice cream. With this mindset, you will lose motivation quickly and quit. Instead, view exercise as an investment. For every unit of energy you put in, you will receive multiple units of energy back. The catch is that these units of energy you get back will be spread out over weeks, months, and years. This is why exercising hardcore occasionally is far inferior than exercising a little bit every day. Okay, so here.
Interesting. Yeah, the whole idea about the exercising as an exchange for something, to an extent, I do think that there's the values and what is it that you're giving up to be able to give yourself time to go and exercise. There's the amount of people that talk about like going to the gym is only 4% of your day or what have you. I actually think that that'd be a very interesting metric to calculate. So if there's 24 hours and it takes 2 hours to go to the gym, I guess it's more so it's 2 divided by 24. And so realistically, because when people say 1, so that's about, 1 divided by 24 is about 4%. 1 divided by 24 is just over 4%. So 2 divided by 24 is 8 is 0.083333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333 right? And so what I get from that essentially is that, yeah, it's not going to be just 2% of the day or 4%. 4%, yeah, more the, but it's like it's that 1 hour. Then someone else has to, like, I say 2% because it's going to the gym, it's coming back from the gym and what have you as well. I have somewhat of a walk to my gym, which I do appreciate. 20-minute walk. I don't have a gym just in the apartment, which would be pretty nice. I know Mark Manson has a home gym as well. I've heard him say it in his Solved a podcast on procrastination, and there's going to be another podcast coming out tomorrow, and that one's going to be on emotional regulation. So look forward to that one too. But yeah, I do think that there is a certain level of sacrifice, but I also do think, yeah, the consistency for sure. I think that has a lot of merit to it too. Let's see now.
Here's a bonus thing that I kind of knew at 20, but I definitely know at 40, and that is meditation makes everything else in life easier, which leads me to
I don't know about that one in terms of the meditation. I've never really actually tried it. I know that Robert Greene would wake up and he would meditate for 45 minutes or whatever in the beginning of his day. I know that that's something that he does. So I'm not saying it can't be useful. I don't know how potentially overrated it is, but I think he's going to go into his sponsor BetterHelp because that's kind of a sponsor that he has done, and he has used BetterHelp before. I admittedly have used it as well. So
the sponsor of this video, Headspace, the
never
meditation
mind.
app.
My bad.
Meditation is one of the most scientific
No,
increase
I'm
memory
not,
anywhere.
because I'm not
This
being
is great because I've been
sponsored by
meditating since. And fun
so-
fact, I knew them before they were cool. Check out the link in the description to get the first, I guess you could say, I knew them before they were of Headspace back in 2015. So I guess you could say I knew them before they were cool. Check out the link in the description.
Years ago.
Minutes a day for 60. So check it out. Might get hurt or embarrassed. Number 18, trust people.
Okay, now before that, I'm going to go and I might wrap it up and just do half of the video right now and do the other half later on. I think that would probably be something worthwhile because I want the video to not necessarily be too long and a bit more watchable for other people. So trying to use a few different strategies to see what makes people bite. Well, let's get on to it. I won't say much about the meditation. I've never really tried it, so.
Most of them are good, and while you might get hurt or embarrassed sometimes, the alternative is just way worse. Number 19.
So I think that that's very interesting in the regard that trust people, like, I think discernment is very necessary. I think having the boundaries is very necessary. Don't trust anybody 100% for sure. The only person that you can trust 100% is you for sure. I think that there's a lot of that has a lot of merit too, and that I wouldn't want to overlook either. So I would certainly also put that at the forefront too, but in a lot of ways one kind of has to trust third parties. I have to trust YouTube that I'll be able to broadcast, for example. I have to trust all of the different equipment that I'm using, my computer, that it's not necessarily going to shut down, so on and so forth. To an extent, we do have to trust third parties.
There's no such thing as a life without problems. Warren Buffett has money problems. A homeless guy has money problems. Buffett's money problems are way more desirable than the homeless guys. Problems don't just disappear. They get exchanged and upgraded for better problems as you grow and evolve. The solution to today's problem will be the seed of tomorrow's. Number 20.
Yeah, and I said that one before, right? But I certainly heard it from him, and I totally do agree with it in the sense I've been in that situation. Like I was saying, I think that was just a really great situation. Having different problems, having better problems as we grow up and grow old and what have you, or as we grow and evolve and get a better life, essentially, and having different problems, having better problems, absolutely. In a lot of ways, when I started to, in some ways, make more money, I was wondering, what's the best way for me to use this money, essentially. So
growth is rarely accompanied by joy and celebration. On the contrary, growth is usually painful to some degree. That's because growth requires loss. A loss of your old values, your old behaviors, your old loves, your old identity. Change always has a component of grief to it, so be sure to let yourself grieve. Number 21.
Yeah. And absolutely. That one definitely hit me. I definitely think that there's been a lot of differences in identity, and some of which I changed as well. Typically stop doing certain behaviors, right? So I definitely think that there's a lot there for sure. And that does embody the growth. And what I mean by that is that then it's no longer about being who one used to be. One changes, and then at that point, by definition, then they're no longer doing some of what it was that they were doing at a certain point in their life. I also don't think that there are particular. I think that someone can be a particular way throughout their life. Some people may say, oh, Peter Pan syndrome or what have you. You know, I think that there's a lot of different ways to live. That's where it goes back to the way that success is defined is also just pretty just different overall for different people. And I think that that's just very important to have. But we're halfway through, so I do think that I'm actually going to stop it there. Definitely want to, as I was saying, give Mark Manson his flowers. I won't like the video right away right now, but because I do want to do the second half. But for the time being, I'll look at some of the comments later on as well. I'll just show off Mark Manson's channel over here. He's done extremely. He started YouTube when he was 36 or something. In terms of his videos, his oldest video, yes, so 6 years ago. But even then, you can see the gaps. He only had one video 6 years ago, and then like 4 videos over the course, 3 videos in 5 years ago, and then 4 years ago, and even then. He talked one time about trying to restart over after 30 or starting whatever it may be after 30. And he actually has that in one of his 40 life lessons, that it's never necessarily too late to start some whatever it may be. And now there's some profanity on the screen, but yeah, so there he has another video about everything at 40 that he wishes he knew later on. And now here it is, the one that I'm watching, the F being normal, and now he's doing even more with trying to be a YouTuber. So there's a Solved podcast. So he doesn't even really have that many videos, but he has, 155. I guess there's a lot of shorts that he does too, to be fair. There's a lot of shorts that he would have done as well. Yeah. So yeah, but he definitely is able to benefit a lot from the book, and then that compounded for him. 2.74 million subscribers. Yeah, I certainly wish I was in his position. I just want to find that one where it was about the 30 years old, or yeah, there's the one on how to be miserable and ruin your life, and that's like blame other people and what have you. There certainly was the one about starting over past 30. It's never too late or something like that. Yes. Why it's not too late to start over after 30. There you go. Why it's not too late to start over after 30. So yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll look into doing a follow-up on this one. And yeah, there's too much profanity on the screen, so I don't want that to affect me negatively. But we'll cut it out over here. Thank you very much for checking out the video, and take care of yourself.